Hey, I'm Don Wildman, and on American History Hit, my expert guests and I journey across the nation and through the years to uncover the stories that have made the United States. From first flight to first ladies, from stitching the Star-Spangled Banner to striking gold in California to shooting for the moon with Apollo, we've got you covered. Catch new episodes of American History Hit, a podcast by History Hit, every Monday and Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Bullseye! The game is over.
It's a covenant cleanup.
Yes!
Oh my gosh, can you above average at that?
Personal foul. Clipping.
I always love that one. Sounds of hockey.
High fives for everybody.
Shall we begin?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
What up, 651 Carpets Plus Studios? On an absolutely, brutally chilly Monday. Happy President's Day to all of you listening to 9 to noon. If you're into such things like me, if you're weird like me, I just Googled, like, how do you celebrate President's Day? I didn't come up with any answers. Not quite sure why we have President's Day in this particular case. But happy Monday, regardless, on a President's Day. It's Nordo in for PA. PA is off in some exotic location, potentially an island, definitely paradise. He'll be joining the fold again and retaking his rightful throne later in the week. But he's on a break, which is a theme here on a Monday. Leagues on pause. Searching for sports as sports fans as rubes, counting down to the combine. Franchise tag day tomorrow, President's Day today, franchise tag day tomorrow. Man, we're on a string of holidays. Should be closed up tomorrow, too. Thankfully, Team USA saved us.
And back the other way, speeds Eichel into the zone, flipping it through, scores! Gabe
got the equalizer.
It was 1-1 at that point. Team USA facing Canada in the Four Nations Cup, and that ultimately led to a 3-1 victory for the Americans in Montreal on Saturday night. Brett Blakemore producing the show today. Thanks for hanging out with me, Brett. And this, just to start with a bit of hyperbole on a Monday morning, that absolutely had Game 7 cups on the line aura to it throughout the entire game. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I am I'm a hockey aficionado or I'm an elite puck mind.
You didn't grow up in the penalty box?
By any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. I can ice skate, but my ankles are weak. There's no doubt about that. That is one of the most fun hockey games that I have watched in my adult life. Mm-hmm. And I know there's always vitriol between USA and Canada. The fact that Team USA is on their level this time around, and I've been reading, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Brett, that this may be one of the best incarnations of Team USA in hockey at this level. But the idea of leagues on pause, and maybe we'll get to the other end of the spectrum. If there was a spectrum here, you'd have Team USA and Canada on Saturday night. You'd have, that's on one end. And then on the other end, you'd have whatever the NBA was trying to do this weekend, whatever the association was trying to do. That would be on the other end of things. But Game 7 aura in Montreal, I think it's Bell Center, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was as good as it freaking gets.
I think the entire event, start to finish, was from the national anthems and all the drama that pursued with that to opening puck drop. Let's drop the gloves. Let's punch you in the teeth. It was just electric start to finish. And it beats the alternative so much of just an all-star game that nobody cares about, going through the motions. I mean, this, if you had any doubt whether, because it's really, it's been said, it's a made-up tournament, the Four Nations face-off.
Yeah.
It's probably never going to happen again. It's never happened before. But the fact that we've been waiting for, since Austin Matthews came into the league, and Jack Eichel and these young American superstars, really. It's been 15 years since we've really seen a best-on-best USA-Canada. You can say the World Cup of hockey, but that was a disaster. So since these superstars have been a thing, we haven't seen it. We've been waiting. One of the Tkachuk brothers said, I've been waiting 9 years thinking about this game that's happening. So it is absolutely the best iteration. It's been far too long, and it was electric start to finish.
Yeah, I tuned in, and thankfully I did at the right time, and it's the anthems, and it's the pregame bid. They're booing our anthem and all of that. But three fights in the first 9 seconds, and both Tkachuk brothers, the Bash brothers. The Tkachuk family, I don't know what the first family of hockey is, and someone will point out, families throughout the course of time where it's been brothers, it's been fathers into sons, and I'm sure there are many of them. But the Tkachuk family and what they've offered to this league is, it's iconic, isn't it?
And what they've offered to this country. They single-handedly set the tone. That family alone set the tone for the rest of the game. And some of the hits were just, like the hit on McDavid to set up the first goal was just bone-crunching. There was one on Doughty that was one of the biggest hits I've ever seen. The Americans set the tone early that we're not going to be bullied. We're going to take it right to you and punch it right in the mouth. Yeah,
I think that was McAvoy that put that nasty one near side on the boards on McDavid. But that's always been the key for me is, and I've watched, of course, Wild and Oilers games, but there clearly is a different pace when you're playing for the flag. And they want to win the cup. The Oilers came close last year and all of that. But McDavid getting the puck in the middle of the ice and then just weaving through 2 or 3 guys effortlessly is one of the most beautiful things in the sport of hockey. And I don't know how you stop it. The Americans did not stop it, at least on that one occasion. But that's what I found interesting. You mentioned the bone-crushing hits to set the tone. The brotherly love moment of the Tkachuk brothers fist bumping as they were both entering the box post fights, all of that. But the balance of HOF to the max skill of Canada, Crosby's still flinging it around at a high level. McDavid doing his thing. I mean, they just have stars on stars on stars on stars. But then the physicality of the Americans and their ability to dictate things physically, it feels like in some ways the conversation that we have as Wild fans and how we want our hockey team built. We saw it on the highest of high levels from Billy G. John Hines, as a matter of fact, one of the assistants behind Torts. I mean, just the way that matched up was a beautiful thing, man.
Well, here's the difference, though, is that when I'm looking at the lines, like the fourth line has Brock Nelson and Kyle Connor on it, like pure goal-scoring guys that are offensively minded. The third line, Dylan Larkin, Matt Boldy on the third line for the U.S. Like, these are not like meat wagons out there who have one job, who are just out there to hit and can't do anything else and provide any other offense. Or think about McAvoy, the guy that we just talked about who laid the big hit on McDavid. Guy's offensively talented. He's got all the skill in the world. So it's not you have to get a grinder who only does one thing. It's a mentality thing. It is, they are goal scorers, but they still play that 200 game. You get the best of both worlds instead of just getting someone who, well, they can hit and they can take penalties, but that's about it. So it's a mentality thing for this U.S. team because they have goal scoring top to bottom lines 1 through 4.
How about Hellebuck in net too?
Oh, so good.
Are they down on Binnington in Canada right now?
He stinks. I've never liked Binnington.
They don't have anybody better? I actually just got a text, 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line. Feel free to chime in. This is Shane and Shakopee. If Canada had anyone else in net, that's a much different game. That trash bin, I think he's referring to Binnington.
I think so.
Shouldn't be anywhere near a goal crease again. America thanks the inept coaches of Canada. Wow. A scathing indictment of Mr. Binnington. Is that the best they have up in Canada?
I like how he spelled trash bin with 2 N's on the bin.
Yeah,
that's just genius.
Could have just imagined it too.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, Pat Nicoletti has said that he thinks Fleury should have been in net. Why not? I think that's the one thing the U.S. undoubtedly has better than Canada right now is goaltending. Because Hellebuck is one of the best in the league. He is unbelievable. Now, the Russians probably have like 3 or 4 goaltenders that could be in that conversation.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Vasilevsky just to start.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're Shesterkin. They've got really good guys. Thank God they're not playing. But I think we have their number in the net, and Hellebuck showed it. I think we'll see Ottinger probably tonight. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not. That's just a guess. But Hellebuck, really, really, really good and better than anyone they've got.
So this is effectively, I mean, this whole tournament is an exhibition in itself. But tonight is just kind of going through the motions, right? Because they're guaranteed a spot in the final.
They are. Yeah, they've clinched it.
And the final's in Boston.
Yes.
Is that Wednesday or Thursday?
I believe it's Thursday.
Okay.
So I've been thinking about this, too, because you can't really sit guys. It's not like you can call up someone from the minor league USA team. You know, they've only got, a couple reserves that they can put in. Like I said, I expect Ottinger to play, but I just worry that when you're already clinched, if you back off too much, how do you ramp it back up again? You know what I mean? So I would like to see them just come out with the same intensity, hopefully. I mean, they're human beings, but if they could come out with that style of intensity and speed, I would like their chances to go the whole way.
Well, I'm curious because, there are a few times a year where sports, it's never technically dull. There are people that are super excited for the most obscure. You're a massive Loons fan, and they're going to kick things off in L.A. this next weekend. Convergence kit and all of that. Mm-hmm. Would love to see you with your last name on the back of one. We're going to work on that at some point, Brett.
We'll send an email.
But not everyone loves the Loons, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The Gopher women's hockey, by the way, I think they just secured their 800th win in program history over the weekend. That's sweet. That's badass to the ladies. So you always have something going on, but there can be a dullness or a lackluster nature to certain parts of the year, or at least anticlimactic. And sadly, about a month of that takes place in the summer, right? We joke about it being the abyss. We never have the abyss, but the abyss, we call it in the summer when the baseball team's lagging. And in some ways typically right now, when you're thinking about post-Super Bowl, but pre-combine, pre-free agency, draft, I mean, later this week, as a matter of fact, we'll be starting to dig into the combine, digging into the draft, and we might talk about more of that later this segment. But Super Bowl's over, combine's around the corner. what are we watching? And I don't want to watch 3-on-3. I don't want to watch skills competitions. And maybe it's just because I'm 40 now, but when I was a kid, I enjoyed Pro Bowl festivities and all-star bits. They don't get me now. But if we only had the NBA All-Star game this weekend, what a weekend that would be. I mean, that's cricket's to the max, absolutely. So the fact, and we had the Daytona 500 yesterday, and we had it. And a guy that I think he has the name, he sounds like an accountant, William Byron, I believe, won it. Actually, I checked in. There weren't many laps to go. And I just wanted to pop in, and I saw that Denny Hamlin was winning. There are many more NASCAR. I don't know the names as much anymore. I know Denny Hamlin. But I wonder if people were bored with the idea of him winning. I think he's won several Daytonas. I don't have it in front of me. But William Byron, congratulations. Ooh. Yeah, well... Daytona 500 winner.
Of course.
That's who he is. I was following our guy Justice down the hall. I mean, he's basically got Alex Bowman's, like he's got his fire suit on, and he refers, everything's the Ally Bank or whatever. He was speaking in sponsorship terms yesterday, so I know he's in on NASCAR. I am not so much.
Did you watch Ludwig Aubert win the Genesis?
No, I did not.
Yeah, well,
no, I didn't.
There you have it.
Didn't catch it.
Yep.
Well, my point is that this was, and so it hits at the right time in the fact that it's USA versus Canada, and it is an exhibition, certainly, but it ain't 3-on-3. It's not whatever they were trying to do in the NBA All-Star game to try and bolster. We got Kevin Hart doing free show, and they're just talking during the entire thing, and the 3 minutes that I watched last night, I watched 6 missed 3-pointers in a row, and I turned the channel. That was it. No! That was it. The court was cool. It's cool to see the players. They looked like they were having a good time. So good for them.
Would you believe that I tuned in for a little bit?
You did tune in?
Think about it. I tuned in at 7. They were all out there. They played the national anthem. I'm like, all right, we're going to play some hoops. And then a half hour later, we're still just talking with the desk.
Yeah.
And they're playing music. I'm like, when are we going? I mean, so much wasted time. Just, it was brutal.
Well, and it goes into the age old, what sports can translate, what actually is the format of some sort of all-star weekend or all-star game that is the most compelling. Can you put something on the line? It's baseball and home field advantage in the World Series. Well, that's not really fair, et cetera, et cetera. So, it goes down that long line, but this was water in the desert, what took place on Saturday with Team USA. And Gensel gets the pair of goals. He gets the first one. You heard the highlight there. Then he gets the empty netter to make it 3-1 late. And he's Woodbury, Hill Murray made. I'm curious. I know he was born in Nebraska. How did he end up going to Omaha instead of a different program?
Well, that's the thing.
And maybe that is the Nebraska. Maybe it's just that simple. It's the Nebraska connection. Mike Gensel was the assistant here with the Gophers for a long time, right? Under Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Gensel's so good.
He is really good. Is he one of us if he was born in Omaha, though?
He spent most of his time here, went to high school here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take credit for him.
Yeah, might as well.
I think that's we can pick and choose. We can pick and choose. If you've contributed something, we'll claim you. And if maybe we're not big fans, maybe we don't claim you. You're allowed. Everyone's allowed to live here, absolutely. But are you one of us? It's hallowed grounds. Hallowed grounds for sure. That game last night, or Saturday rather, Brock Faber rising to the occasion. So I just full disclosure, I did not watch anything other than highlights of the Finland game, the 6-1 victory. But I did see a lot of commentary in terms of Faber kind of needing to work his way onto the national stage. That game was not his best game, and just young kid learning how to be at that level with that competition. How good was he? I think it's Jacob Slavin.
Yep,
the Canes blue liner. And they were in there in all of the most clutch moments. They were there when every single moment mattered, and they leaned on him. I think Faber played nearly 26 minutes in that game against Canada, and he was freaking perfect.
Yeah.
And Slavin's as good as it gets. I had no idea who this cat was. That duo, as shut down as it gets, in the sport of hockey. That's coming from a casual, but Faber and Slavin, unfreaking believable on Saturday.
Well, think about this. When Canada were really trying with the empty net, trying to get a goal, when they had literally McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, everybody out on the ice, listen to how this empty net goal highlight starts.
Brock Faber will send it down the ice, slurping with the open net. Across to Gensel, scores!
Brock Faber sets the whole thing up.
Faber's passing.
He's out there when they have superstar after superstar in the clutch moment of the game. Faber and Slavin are out there. I think that says it all.
He never looked phased or worried at all. So whatever happened in the Finland game, I did not see it other than the highlights. But he was fantastic on Saturday. Quick update. William Byron, according to the text line, has won back-to-back Daytona 500. So I'm the idiot in that regard. Didn't know. Sounded like an accountant, but congratulations to him. Willie B, back-to-back Daytona 500s. Good experience for a guy like Faber at this level, in this spot. There's no doubt about it. But kind of winding my way back through this water in the desert that was Team USA on Saturday, I do wonder how NHL teams and organizations are viewing this. So, want great performances, want your players on the best stage. That's good for business. Absolutely. But if you're the Florida Panthers and you see Tkachuk sitting on the end of the bench for the final 8 minutes of that third period, and he's not leaving, he was clearly never going to step back onto the ice, but he's there for his guys, that is worrisome. If I'm sitting, I'm thinking about trying to make this thing back to back in South Beach, and I need a deep run in the spring, and I got Tkachuk on the end of the bench. I guarantee you, if it was 3-on-3 and they're just kind of moseying their way through things, Tkachuk is not on the end of the bench.
He's just street close.
Yeah, Tkachuk is also not. He's not punching a guy and fighting a guy less than 9 seconds into a game either. So the risk associated with playing at this level, because exhibition or not, that was not that was bloodletting. That was rage out. That was country versus country on Saturday. Again, playing for the flag just gets me. Even if it's a sport, whether it's the Olympics or international events in general, it gets me and brings me in. Doesn't always keep me. This one kept me. But if I'm the Florida Panthers, or I forget, big name for Canada, they missed him. Well, Makar, yeah. But I think he was just sick, though. I don't think he was hurt.
Well, think about if you're the Oilers owner and watching McDavid just get crunched by McAvoy, there was some big hits. But that's something that, and to get a second soccer reference in it, that's something that over there, that's just a part of life, is international duty and stuff. Like, they just accept that. Where here, it's so much more. Like, the World Baseball Classic could be so cool, and the owners in the MLB just shut it down because they, God forbid, that they have a few extra meaningful at-bats during spring training. So it's just something that we haven't really adopted that much in the pro sphere of international play.
Well, because, it's because of the revenue and the contracts and those sorts of things. Yeah. So, and soccer, revenue-wise,
that's just a thing.
It's much different. The NFL is going to clear, I think they're in the 20s now in terms of billions a year in media contracts and all of that. Even Premier League, your favorite league. Okay. Yeah. What is it? Come on, you Spurs.
Yeah. Okay. Big win yesterday over United. Big
Tottenham, not Tottenham. Tottenham.
Correct.
Big Tottenham fan. Premier League has like a $4 or $5 billion TV deal. Mm-hmm. It absolutely. And again, as Americans, when we think of soccer, we think of that league.
Yeah.
That's how much internationally, from a revenue standpoint, they have not been able to build on their product commercially in the way that the United States has. For better or worse. You can look at that however you... So, in that sport, playing for your country means a lot more. In America, they want the paychecks. Yeah. And they get the paychecks. And the paychecks are pretty good. And so, the risk associated with that is much different. Now, with that game moving forward, what's interesting, again, it's kind of... you're right, you can't sit everybody, but they got to find a way to chill and make it through this game. Tkachuk, I would assume, is not playing tonight. What if they meet Canada again? Oh
my gosh.
All the high from Saturday, Canada could just roll right into Boston on Thursday and just smack the Americans in the face and win this cup. They could.
It's possible.
They absolutely could. The skill and the talent's undeniable. And you're right, dictating of game flow, as we talked about earlier in the segment, that was evident early with the fighting and the physicality. What if they just roll into Boston and just whoop up on Team USA? What if Canada gets the last laugh? That could very much happen.
In the 2010 Olympics.
Now, Canada has to beat Finland today, I think.
Yeah. So every other team has 2 points. So the U.S. is in. Every other team has 2 points. So the results today, starting at noon, once we wrap up, will determine everything. Now, I'm sure there's some 3D chess move the U.S. could do if they threw the game and then they could put Sweden in the final instead of Canada, which obviously they're not going to do. But yeah, every team is fighting to get into that final, obviously, except for the U.S. today.
I'd want to see USA Canada part 2. Just give me more.
I think you have to.
Give me more on Thursday night. Now, they were booing the United States anthem on Saturday night and didn't enjoy hearing that. I kind of understand it based on the fact, I mean, if you're just this Canadian, you're a working stiff, you happen to live in Canada, and the world power next door is flippantly referring to your country as the next state. I kind of get why you might boo the national anthem. I get it. Now, what we need to do on Thursday, I don't think we can't boo their anthem.
Oh, really? Don't
boo their anthem. No, just stand and respect it. Just stand and respect it, move on, and then beat them 3-1 again.
Do you think the fine people of Boston will agree with that?
Well, that's the problem. It's in Boston.
Yeah,
that's the problem. I'm kind of living in dreamland here.
Yeah,
they're not on Philly's level in terms of fan base. They're not far away.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll boo. They'll boo. There's nothing I can do to stop that. I don't think they should boo, but that's just me. But that kind of adds to the vitriol of this as well, combined again with the fact that, and this is more people telling me than it is me feeling this or knowing this, but you can see the fact that the USA and the team, Bill Guerin is the general manager, I believe, of Team USA. But in the end, he didn't build all of the talent. I mean, he found the pieces to put together. He deserves credit for that. But in the end, American talent in an exhibition cup like this, it's been a long time since the United States were on this par with Canada to do what they did on Saturday night and may have to do again on Thursday. And that's the most disappointing thing is I think it was Russo. But kind of the idea, and you mentioned it, this might just be a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, from an all-star game standpoint, you're either going to expand this or it's going to be a once every so often bit.
Yeah.
Because the Ruskies are sitting home going, I'd like to do a cool bit like this. There are other nations, only 4 nations. How'd you choose Finland and Sweden? Well, the Germans in the mix, they'd like to participate. So it's probably not going to be an annual thing, which is disappointing. Although if it was annual, would we love it the same way that we're loving it now? That's kind of like that World Cup or Olympics conversation. Do it every year. What?
Yeah, I think the plan right now is to do every other. And so next year will be Olympics, then All-Star, then World Cup, All-Star, Olympics, so on and so forth. I think that works.
It could work.
But yeah, anyways, regardless. There was an element of that last night, though, because we haven't seen it for so long. And it's been a question of what would happen if the U.S. stars of today would finally play best on best. I mean, it's been 9 years. So.
Drink it in. Yeah. It was so good on Saturday. And you're, these moments, certainly on the international level, that's part of it is, it catches us at a great time, entertainment-wise, appreciating. I mean, hey, Parker Fox's team, Gopher Hoops, They go to USC the other day. They get a victory on Saturday. Nice little Saturday for hockey fans and Minnesota sports fans in general. Gopher men's hockey had a little trouble in Ann Arbor. Apparently, there's a shootout issue that is persisting with with that team. But with that said, it caught us at the perfect time, and it is, as good as it gets at the top level with these two nations, U.S. and Canada. And the Americans finally on their level. in the Canadians' favorite sport. And Saturday was just one of those games that hit me. I know it hit a lot of people that may not dig in. We don't have center ice packages. We're not watching Kings and Ducks on a Tuesday night just to check out the West Coast situation with the Pacific Division. But when we see what's good and they're playing for the flag, and it was just as unbelievably energized as it was. Bell Center hopping. Trudeau's there. It looks like I think Trudeau was drinking beers in the crowd. He was being a rube. So everybody was there. And the vibe was good. And then Jake Gensel, Dylan Larkin, and the Americans just snatched that victory away and came back home winners. That was as good as it gets from an international game, exhibition or otherwise. Will it happen again? Someday. Maybe not every year, though. That's the opening segment, 9 to noon, as we get to the TimberTech set list, brought to you by TimberTech.com. Thank you, TimberTech, for bringing us the 9 to noon set list every day, as you do. 10 a.m., we will actually revisit the hockey conversation. Pat Micheletti, who's a traveling man, as he is, he's going to be in studio at 10, and we'll talk about hockey, not just the Gophers over the weekend at Michigan, but Team USA, the NHL on a pause, what we're excited about moving forward as teams get back into the mix this weekend, I believe. So that's Micheletti at 10. The columnist, weekly guest, Lavelle E. Neal III. Thank you to Allery's. He's going to be in studio at 11 on a potpourri of topics with the columnist. But when we return, some Vikings conversation, Vikes Bites, and more. Brett Blakemore produces. I'm Nordo, and you're listening to 9 to noon.
Each week on Echoes of History, we uncover the epic stories that inspire Assassin's Creed. We're stepping into feudal Japan in our special series Chasing Shadows, where samurai warlords and shinobi spies teach us the tactics and skills needed not only to survive, but to conquer. Whether you're preparing for Assassin's Creed Shadows or fascinated by history and great stories, listen to Echoes of History, a Ubisoft podcast brought to you by History Hit. There are new episodes every week.
If you want to chime into what's happening to your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Just let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard text message and data rates apply.
Couple of text messages. Thanks for the NASCAR inclusion, Nordo. Well, I said the guy that won it, his name sounds like an accountant, and I didn't know that he had won back-to-back. So that was your knowledgeable NASCAR inclusion, 9 to noon. It is indeed, despite my obvious ignorance to the motorsports, my key is I got to follow names, right? So I grew up in the Rusty Wallace, Dale Jarrett, Bobby and Terry Labonte, Jeff Gordon. I grew up with those names. Dale and then ultimately Dale Jr. Those are the names that I grew up with. So following the Logano's and the Bowmans, Ricky Stenhouse. I'm shooting from the lip right now. William Byron, the William Byrons. Big William Byron guy. I'm having trouble keeping up with the names. So that loses me a bit. Bucket list, Tony Stewart, by the way. How could I forget the Home Depot car?
Jimmy Johnson.
Now, Jimmy was like the nice, quiet guy, right?
He just won everything. Yeah.
And I think people didn't like him because he didn't have a personality. That was kind of the vibe I got. Like he would just go out there and, it was almost like Joe Mauer. You picture like Joe Mauer drinking a glass of warm milk and then going 4 for 5 with 2 doubles, and he's perfect behind the plate, etc. Jimmy Johnson was kind of like that for NASCAR. At least that was my perception of it. Could be wrong. But I just don't know the names. But bucket list item, to go to a NASCAR race appears to be one of the coolest weekends in any sport. And I have never been. I think Kansas City's got a track.
Yeah, why don't we have a track?
There are some within. Yeah, that's a good question.
We don't have a NASCAR track and we don't have a bowl game at US Bank. Why is that?
Well, good questions all about. I know that we have, it's not funny car, but like drag racing, we have Brainerd International, which is, I don't know if that is a prominent spot for racing of any sort, but I know Brainerd International, I've heard that, tons of events up there. It's been there for a long time. I don't know why we don't have a NASCAR track. It's probably because of people like me that don't know that William Byron won back-to-back Daytona 500. It's probably my fault, is what it is. What up, Micheletti?
Scared me. Anyways,
Kyle from Isanti, don't forget about Dick Trickle. How could I?
Who could forget?
How could I?
It's one of my favorites.
Vikes Bites is brought to you on a day-to-day basis. We're going to have to cut this short in a few minutes and then rebound around the corner, but we will kick it off with at least a bite, a nibble, a morsel, if you will. Vikes Bites is always presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You can shop online, and a box of meat shows up at your doorstep. You can learn about regenerative agriculture, what that means in the mix, the nutrient-dense beef, combined with that elite flavor. You can shop at your local Coburn's, Co-ops, and I believe Kowalski's locations as well. They're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics. We're going to talk about the Gophers at 10 with Micheletti in studio. Excited for that. Where are we headed to first with the purple, Brett?
Vikes Bites! Vikes Bites, indeed. Here's what we're going to do. I've reinvented the wheel here because, as you said, we're looking for water in the desert right now. So what I want to do, I'm going to run through just position groups, and I want you to answer out of 1 to 10, the need of addressing in the draft/free agency. And we're just going to rattle through them here. Okay.
Yeah.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do the Vikings need to address in draft or free agency the quarterback position?
The quarterback position?
We're going through the whole list.
1 to 10?
1 to 10. 1 being not at all.
1.
Just nothing.
Yep. That's correct.
J.J. McCarthy. What about...
Daniel Jones. Don't forget about Daniel Jones.
Who could forget?
Don't forget about DJ.
Yeah. He's got a playoff win. Don't forget.
Look, hey, you're going to... Hey, not today, but someday, the smugness that you have as a Packers fan will be gone. There will be a humbling moment when you guys finally figured out you gave $200 million to Jordan Love, and you are just sinking cash into a lost, rudderless ship. Okay? So, J.J. McCarthy and Daniel Jones.
Whatever helps you sleep at night. Here we go. Running back position. What do you think? Addressing the draft and free agency.
Yeah, that's a 6 or a 7. We can talk about it more, but the Vikings, within the last day or two, they extended the void date of the contract of Aaron Jones, and it was supposed to happen, I think, like now, this week for sure. But they pushed that back to when free agency begins. So that would feel like a move where that extends flexibility to Kwesi and the Vikings to try and get a deal done. Maybe ultimately Aaron Jones still moves on. But that's a massive talker into free agency and the draft. Looking at names in the combine. I know PA is going to be there next week. We'll dig more into that for sure. But the running back spot, Ty Chandler's general ineptitude this year got to a point where we had to bring Cam Akers back into the fold because we just couldn't trust Ty. And that stinks. Hopes for Ty. High hopes for Ty in a lot of respects. It wasn't working. So, and Aaron Jones in his own right, we can tout that he played all 17 games, and we can tout that he got all of those carries. How effective were they, specifically down the stretch with the nagging injuries that appear to be inevitable, perpetual, evergreen in terms of a talker with Aaron Jones? So whether it's the draft, it's free agency, it has to be addressed, I think, in a significant manner. So I'd put it at a 6 or a 7.
Vikes Bites.
I didn't include this in the list, but wouldn't it be cool if the Vikings addressed the fullback position? Just get some big bruising fullback just for the fun of it. No reason. I just like fullbacks. I think it's fun. Anyway, so we can move on.
Vikes Bites.
What are you? We got CJ Ham. What are you doing? Duluth Denfeld, go crazy.
Of course. Who could forget?
Yeah, we should get, let me guess, A.J. Dillon's available.
Well, he probably will be available. That's not where I was going.
Vikes Bites.
Unbelievable.
The wide receiver position, 1 to 10, addressing, do you want any depth behind J.J. and Addison? Not a priority. Yes, a priority. Your thoughts?
Well, again, typically whether I'm putting one on the QB spot or in this case, I would say one as well. That's also in conjunction with the idea of how important other areas are. In any typical year, adding a wide receiver that can compete in camp. We had some practice. Tristan Jackson was right on the borderline of being a contributor to this team in 2025. And so you always want to get better at spots, no matter how good they are. But I would still say in terms of on the list of to-dos, which is lengthy, that the wide receiver spot at this stage is not one of those. And you're picking on Jalen Naylor. Needs to be better in some spots, but how about the start to the season where he had, I think, 3 or 4 touchdowns in the first 4 or 5 games, and his good moments in certain spots, the muffed punt at Lambeau was a freaking disaster. The dropped pass inside the 10 at the Rams on a Thursday night was nuclear, apocalyptically bad. And so you mix the good with the bad, but the combo of JJ and Addison, Jets and Addison, excuse me. I gotta make sure that I'm doing it the right way here. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, that combo. And then putting in a third. I don't have the free agent list in front of me. I assume Brandon Powell would be a free agent. Just another year of not a lot of productivity in the punt return game, but he could move the chains. Powell can work a little bit when you give him a chance and space in certain moments. So I would put it at 1 simply because of the mountain of things that we're going to be looking at in some other spots. But that's where I would sit with the wideouts. I like our group at this stage. Let's do this. Let's pause. Let's come back. Let's hit some other position groups and continue Vikes Bites. That's Brett Blakemore. I'm Nordo in for PA. PA's on an island somewhere, and he is soaking in the sun. I don't know exactly what time it is where he is, but I hope he's enjoying himself, and he's revving up for the combine. He's revving up for free agency, and he's taking some vocal and mental maintenance days. So good for him. But we're here with you. We're going to have Micheletti in studio at 10, Lavelle at 11. And a few more Vikes Bites. We'll continue this position conversation, actually, when we return. It's Nordo in for PA, 9 to noon.
Hey, I'm Don Wildman, and on American History Hit, my expert guests and I journey across the nation and through the years to uncover the stories that have made the United States. From first flight to first ladies, from stitching the Star-Spangled Banner to striking gold in California, to shooting for the moon with Apollo. We've got you covered. Catch new episodes of American History Hit, a podcast by History Hit, every Monday and Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't miss out. Earth, Wind, and Fire are set to light up the stage with their timeless hits and electrifying performance. Secure your tickets now to see them at the Ledge Amphitheater August 10th. Get ready to groove to legendary sounds of this iconic band. KFAN.com. Keyword calendar for more details.
I miss the days when the host of 9 to noon, Paul Allen, would be like, hey, I'm feeling this song by Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'd like you to play it, and I could just play it. I miss those days. Maybe that's what President's Day is all about today. It's not just buying a mattress. It's the airing of grievances. I want real music back.
I think our music is great. I think that everything is going fantastic.
By the way, I got this text machine 64686. William Byron is essentially the successor to Jeff Gordon in the Hendrick Motorsports number 24. He's noted for starting out on iRacing, the simulation bit. I wonder how prevalent that is. I saw something over the weekend, too. Frankie Muniz, Malcolm in the Middle,
yes,
was in one of not the Daytona 500, I don't believe, but he was in one of the other races taking place at Daytona, finished like 10th. Like, that's not just a dude with a hobby. Like, that's a real bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, Paul Newman, and this is a bit before my time, but I know Paul Newman is the actor, but he used to race a ton of cars decades ago. And Frankie Muniz, 10th in a race over the weekend at Daytona. Wonder if he's got a future in the grand motorsports scene. You know what? We're gonna ask Micheletti that. Let's continue some Vikes Bites. Vikes Bites brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. I love their products. My kids love their products as well, which is key. But you can shop online. You can go to Coburn's and Co-ops and Kowalski's locations. And they support, if Gopher athletes are eating Thousand Hills beef on their training table, just so you know that. Last segment, we were doing position groups, kind of level of need as we look ahead to the combine and beyond. We are going to have tomorrow, speaking of Gophers, 11 o'clock bow hunter Ryan Burns, Gopher Illustrated. He's going to be in studio. There's a bunch of Gophers that are going to be in the combine in Indy that starts towards the end of next week. We're also going to have Thor Nystrom on and kind of throw some names at him, maybe some guys that might look good in purple. And that is the time of the year, and that plays into what we're talking about, addressing the needs in free agency and the draft. And maybe I'm selling wide receiver short if Brandon Powell's going to be a free agent. There's a good name out there. We can always get better. I still am kind of leveraging it against kind of some gotta have it's in my mind. I know we have cash. We have limited draft capital. Trade back. Trade back. Trade back. Come on. That's what Kwesi needs to do. Just pull up his pants and do the trade away. Trade back. Trade
Can you
back.
imagine saying that 3 years ago on these airwaves?
Do you
Vikings
think,
need to trade back? People would lose their minds.
Well, yeah, and they still do.
Well, yeah.
But it's frustrating. You get so invested for potentially multiple months. And I remember I've been to draft parties. It's kind of the idea of you wait, you're on the clock, and that's it. Whew, and it's gone. And you're watching the NFL Network coverage, and the other team's helmet pops up, and what happened? I had just I'd spent all this time falling in love with this player at this spot, and he's available. That was especially painful a couple years ago, in fact. Something about pick 12 and maybe a safety from Notre Dame being available. Suddenly the team drops back 20 spots. Maybe they don't get the compensation in return that most people would love and want.
Hell.
Ended up with a guy that I think just won a Super Bowl ring. Didn't play a snap on defense, but Lewis Seen, Super Bowl champion. What's the next? So I'd put wide receivers. I'm going to go 2 of 10. I'm going to move it up.
10.
Yeah, Powell's a free agent. The Cooper Kupp name's out there. Something to pay attention to.
Oh, we'll go here.
But I still like our duo. Suspension or not for Jordan Addison. We'll see how that thing plays out. It sounds like we will. It looks like that's in motion where we'll get some finality, and then the league will adjudicate and such, and ultimately punish him or not punish him, depending upon how the court case ends up. But I still like our duo for the most part. Where are we going to next?
Vikes Bites!
Well, we'll continue with receivers, but more from the tight end perspective. How do you feel about the tight end room going into this next season on a scale of 1 to 10? Need to address in draft or free agency?
Yeah, from a personnel, we need a third tight end, Johnny Munt. Maybe it's just as simple that Johnny continues his time here. And I don't know, where he sees himself. You bring him in, a couple of good seasons here as, for what his role is. But still, again, lower on the list, I'm going to say 2 of 10 as well. I mean, they have some decisions. I think they might have some decisions to make, not via free agency and draft, but they got to figure out the money situation with TJ. And they got to figure that out. They got some things to ponder as it pertains to old number 87, I believe.
Well, they had to reset the market to get him, though.
That's how it works. That's why you generally.
That's the game.
You'd rather be the team that's getting out before the big money comes in than have to be the guy that pays the big money because you aren't effective in the draft.
Yep.
And we can say whatever we want about how good people can be in free agency, measured spending sprees, and everything. Championship teams are built by the combination that is built on the platform of drafting effectively. Howie Roseman, most recent case, we used Brett Veach with the Chiefs. He was awful when he started as general manager of the Eagles. And he may have been at a spot where you're thinking about making a general manager change. But then he figured it out. And he's been throwing darts for the last 3-4 years now. And they're hoisting a Lombardi. Good for them. What's the next position group?
One more before we straddle here.
Vikes Bites.
Which I imagine will take us the rest of the way because there's a lot to talk about here.
Do we have to straddle on President's Day?
Is that the new executive order? I don't. Yeah, we could. The offensive line. we could go tackle, guard, center, but I'm just going to group them all into
10 to 10.
Yeah,
10
out of 10.
There it is. 10 to 10 to 10.
There you have it.
Whether it's Thor tomorrow talking about the combine and the draft, as the combine ultimately approaches, post-combine into free agency, and then from free agency all the way up to draft night. If we're not talking about potentially replacing both interior offensive linemen, then I don't really want to participate in that conversation. It has to happen. There has to be some sort of philosophical change. There has to be a change in terms of how we're deploying personnel on the offensive line. It has to be different. It has to be better. And that goes into the development and supporting J.J. McCarthy as he ultimately will begin to start games at some point, maybe 2025, right? J.J. McCarthy, SZN. The O-line needs to be better. And the only way we're going to be doing that is by making that among the biggest of focal points into free agency, into the draft, and not just with one body, multiple. And that has to be among the top of all needs, all thoughts, all focuses of this entire coaching and scouting staff. How do we make the next great offensive line? You're going to have Christian Darrisaw that's going to return at some point in 2025, right? So addressing that, Cam Robinson's going to be a free agent. Is he still looking for starters, cash, multi-year deals at this stage of his career? I have no idea. Maybe he comes back on another one-year bit. Who knows? That's a massive focus, right? No Darrisaw. We're just assuming things at this point, but the idea of timelines and injuries, you got to think about Darrisaw. Brian O'Neill, as good as he's been, and I thought he had a terrific season, he's not getting younger. So we got to figure out not just, what the short-term plan is at those two high-end spots, but this disaster that has been the interior of the offensive line has to change, and it has to change now. Just be done with it. Rip the Band-Aid off, be honest about it, and just absolutely put everything you have into that spot. And I still believe that it's favored that you would see 2 new guards, and I think you will see one more season of Garrett Bradbury. And then whatever the future holds after 2025, we shall see. It's a 10 of 10 on the offensive line. So, Vikes Bites brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. We'll jump into some names of offensive linemen that the Vikings might fancy. Not just at pick 24, but some names as they enter the free agent market. That's what we'll be doing throughout this week as we talk the Minnesota Vikings franchise tag day tomorrow. I got Ben Gessling in on Wednesday. We're going to hammer through all of this. But next, we're going to switch back to Team USA, Gopher Hockey, Minnesota Wild on a pause. A potpourri of conversation, really, with the great Pat Mick 2626. Patrick Micheletti is in studio next. Second hour ahead. It's 9 to noon on the Fan.
Ever wondered what it feels like to be a gladiator, facing a roaring crowd and potential death in the Colosseum? Find out on the Ancients podcast from History Hit. Twice a week, join me, Tristan Hughes, as I hear exciting new research about people living thousands of years ago, from the Babylonians to the Celts to the Romans, and visit the ancient sites which reveal who and just how amazing our distant ancestors were. That's the Ancients from History Hit.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.